what did you feel like when you first started your 401k? Like first ever. What did that feel like for you?
Okay.
Who-
Oh, are we
Yeah,
going?
That's
yes, like
like
just jump
because
in.
I was talking over you.
Okay.
Um,
My first job ever, and I honestly didn't know that I was starting it. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, like I didn't realize that I was contributing to it until I left that first job and they were like, "Oh, do you want to roll this over to your next job?" I was like, "Oh, word. I'm smarter than I thought." I didn't know because I was like 22, and I was not thinking about I was in the mode of like, I don't care about savings. I'm trying to maximize whatever little tiny bit of money I'm getting from this paycheck. But I apparently started one or had one open while I was working there, did not realize I was working there. So shout out to past me for looking out for future me without knowing it. But yeah, no, and then obviously I kept like adding to it and whatnot throughout. It's really clutch when they match though. It's really clutch, but when they don't match, it's like, I mean, you know. What about you guys?
I remember when, like, similarly to you, like when I first had this like job at a larger company, and seeing like, oh, these are the benefits, like 401k, and I was like, I don't really know what that is, but like it's like in the list of benefits, I'm like, sure, that's like saying, what's it called? Unlimited vacation. I was like, it's just something that they say, but it's not actually a benefit. But then I ended up being at that employer for about 4 years, and so the 401k that I guess was I started back then ended up compounding over time, and then a couple of years
Mhm.
later, a separate employer um, started a separate account. So I now have two little 401ks that I feel like I didn't really do much to activate them, but like definitely glad for having that, not foresight because I didn't actively do anything about it, but or yeah, grateful for those employers for offering that benefit, which now I look back and I'm like, oh, that is, I guess, that was a benefit.
Mhm.
I'll say for me, my grandfather, he's still alive, big into investing. He was always talking to me about like money, always talking to me about like, especially as like a Black American person, like the importance of like saving. He would talk to me like, well, when you get to be this age, you could save up, and after you've invested, you'll have $1 million. Blah 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 blah. Like that's how he was always talking to me. And then also my mom reinforced, that kind of thought as well. So like when I got my first job, I was like, oh, a bitch has health insurance and a 401k. Yes, sign me the hell up. I am ready. I have prepared. My family has given me the pep talk. Like I was locked in, and like I was like taking notes and like calling my grandfather after, like, do I sign up for this or that? So I was really excited. I will say I started off in education, so I had like an educational 401k type thing, and they matched. So that
Mm.
was like super exciting. And then I'd been like, again, I talked to like my friend Christina, who is our guest for this episode, and she was like, "Girl, max that the hell out as much as you can." And so in my mind, I was thinking a 401k is my investment for old ass Amber. But my mind has shifted, and I cannot wait to talk about how my mind has shifted when we have this conversation.
Mm.
Welcome to the Culture Fit podcast, where we are your besties talking about that mid-career crisis. And today we're talking about money, money, money. And
Oh yeah. Well, I'm Amber.
I'm Remington.
I'm Elise.
And we are ex coworkers who are now actually real friends, talking
Yes,
about who things.
we have been everywhere. We've been seeing it. We've been in the rooms. We've been at the table. We've been listening to the talk. And now we're talking about it with you.
Hopefully you can get something out of this journey that we go on as we try to
Do stuff
uh,
together.
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
scramble our own eggs of life. is what I was gonna say, but that doesn't really make sense. But it kind of does, right? We're unscrambling our life eggs.
I guess we are
Yes.
unscrambling our life eggs.
We are unscrambling our life eggs. That's cute. Wait,
Yeah,
unscrambling.
like
Yeah, life
yeah,
egg.
because like
Yeah.
mid-career crisis, the egg gets scrambled. Now we're unscrambling it and putting the Humpty Dumpty back on a hill type thing.
God bless Nicole, who's our editor that y'all don't get to see because she's out here doing Lord's work, keeping us together. Lisa's like, "Yo, I love you." All
I
right,
feel
who we
like
got?
I'm very poetic and my metaphors are actually like really on point. So if
I
you think
think
they
they
need
are.
to be edited to make sense, like maybe that's a conversation you and I need to
That was
have.
that was beautiful, Lisa. You right.
Thanks,
You are
Remington. Thank you.
giving
My bad.
Sorry
All
I
right.
don't sound like AI, Amber.
Okay. Right, let's jump right in. So we've all heard, a lot of folks right now actually are talking about like, how do I use my 401k? The job market is like hella rocky and uncertain. There's a lot of people looking for work, a lot of people fired, people who have been fed up and just let go, people who have burnt out and been like, peace out. But we all need money under capitalism to keep a roof over our head, food in our stomachs, and maybe even travel and heal ourselves. So, how do we do that? If you've had a 401k, you might have come across TikToks who've told you, girl, empty out that 401k and start that business or follow your dreams or whatever, whatever. And this conversation today is kind of unpacking that. Want to let y'all know this is not financial advice. Don't come back and sue our asses after you've made a choice that you've made for yourself. I do want to say that is the disclaimer. It's a little bit
Make your own
unprofessional.
choices, do your own research, but we're kind of opening the lid on that conversation. If for anyone who feels temptation at this point of their life or in this point of the world to withdraw on their 401k early, this conversation is going to be for you. Have you ladies been in that? Or like I will say I am. I'm still like in the process of making a decision, but, have you ladies thought about, like, withdrawing on your 401k or have you?
Mm. Definitely have not. Have I thought about it? Honestly, not really as of now, mostly because I have, I have also witnessed what it's like when you have family who have no retirement plan or
Mm,
investments at all. And I think when you have that example and are able to look at the impact of not having any sort of support when you are in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and you have to keep working, like even that inkling of having to tap into it dissipates for me almost immediately because I'm like, well, I don't want that same outcome, like if I can help it. And finding other ways. I think for me, it's more about finding other sources of income, whether it be passive sources of income or additional, side hustles or things of that nature, which is like, boo, adding on to the work grind of it all. But like, figuring out other creative ways to make up for the money that I need instead of taking it out on, my future self. So that's for me personally, but I know everybody is different. Like, and shout out to your own personal situation. Like, no wrong answer, I don't think, right? There's no wrong answer.
I don't think there is a wrong. There's definitely not a wrong answer. And Remington, I definitely know what it's like to watch family members who have worked and just didn't have a plan or worked and the plan was not adequate enough to financially support them. So that fear is definitely a thing. And also, we should blame capitalism for that fear. I mean, I have not only thought about, but I've drained my 401k and not drained it. I've actually chipped off, maybe cut the tip off twice. The first time to buy my home, and put a substantial down payment on my home using a piece of my 401k. And then after I got fired, I'll be fully transparent. I was like, why am I going to stress out? I got kids, you know what I mean? Why am I going to stress out? My kid's about to graduate. I'm doing this. You know what I mean? Not for everyone. I will say I was very aggressive when I was like saving and putting money into my 401k and into my investment account. So, I'm very thankful that I'm not down to zero. But, I I do not recommend, and I do also recommend. And I will say, I know people who drain a 401k to start a business. That shit would amazing, and they are like really well off. Multiple people. I know multiple people have done that. So, and then I know people who've drained it and they're looking around like, dang, that didn't even work. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? You know, there's penalties for taking money out of your 401k, and I know that when we have our conversation with, Christina, she will address that, but, like, you know, I have experienced those tax penalties. It didn't kill me. It definitely was less just, like, a bummer, but once you get through it, you know, I don't know. This is not financial advice, so don't
Yeah, yeah. Everyone needs to make their own choices, do
make
their
our
own
freaking choice.
research. But I will like, yeah, I think Amber, like you took it out to make an investment. And I think that is something like everyone should always be mindful of is, yeah, like what are you doing to grow and build your own wealth? And I also will flag or acknowledge that my perspective around it is um from a very privileged place because I come from a country that takes care of its citizens, it's elderly, it's disabled. So I um it is kind of a culture shock to come and have a career in America and realize that like, oh, you have to save for your own like retirement. Like, but at the end of the day, it is crazy because like we are all inevitably going to be like have a disability at some point in our life. And so it's like, yeah, like it is something to think about um like yeah, how and but also another reason to like also invest always invest in yourself and then also invest in your communities too because like when it comes that time in your life like we really need to lean on each other I guess but yeah it is kind of a crazy thing that like we have to think about.
Can I just hop in real quick and say you're coming from a country that takes care of its people, and I do wanna make it very clear that the reason the United States cannot have anything nice is because of racism. I wanna make that very freaking clear, that the social supports that were put in place are always voted away because of racism in the United States. Deeply rooted in anti-Black racism specifically, as someone who knows civics and history, you can fight yourselves in the comments. Don't come for me. Okay? Because anytime anybody tried to pass something, the racism emerged and people voted against their best interests. So we could have nice things as the United States that has far more revenue per capita than, you know, where you come from, Elise. But the fact of the matter is we can't have nice things and we can't have social supports because people are disgusting.
Yeah.
This is
Just gonna
why
say that.
I will continue to advocate for Black American migration to Australia.
Listen,
You know,
girl,
make
I'm
sure that
coming.
all count.
You already know I'm coming. Okay? My
Seriously.
bags are packed, okay?
To be continued. And honestly, too, that's why a lot of millennials, especially younger millennials, borderline Gen Z, right? Like the mindset, especially if you don't have kids, especially if you don't have dependents, especially if you're not a caregiver of any kind and you're completely operating as an independent, the mindset increasingly has become I don't even care. I don't even care about this retirement. I don't care. Like I'm living to just enjoy at this point. Like some people are at that point where it's like, I'm actively planning for a future that is not guaranteed for me at the rate that we're going and at the rate,
100%.
like as a society, we are continuously undoing all the work that we keep trying to do to create a greater society for one another and each other and people who don't have as many opportunities. So some people are just like, what am I going to wait for this for? Like, I don't even care. Like,
Right.
I'm trying to have a okay way of I'm just gonna enjoy the life that I have right now.
Today. Yeah, yeah. Because people are disenchanted with the idea of the future and the promise of a 401k anyway, because we're kind of in a way losing faith in the economy anyways. And then you see like especially when you see people who have worked their ass off their whole life and still be at that like place in their retirement age, like that's when you're supposed to be able to like enjoy your life, but actually like
Chilling.
it doesn't actually pay off. So, yeah, that's why we want to unpack this conversation today about building wealth truthfully. On that note, let's dump.
Keep that in.
Okay, wait. On that note, let's dive in to the conversation that y'all had with Christina. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there because I had to make some money. I'm struggling a little bit financially at the moment after deciding to leave my career a year ago. Actually, I won't say struggling because I feel happier than I ever have before, but I am in a way only just covering the bills. So I had to say yes to this gig that came up. So I was very sad to miss this conversation, but I definitely can't wait to hear what you'll talk about and dive into because, yeah, like I said, I'm contemplating making a withdrawal on my 401k. So we'll see if this can influence my decision making process.
All right, y'all. I am so excited to have this guest on with us today. She's near and dear friend of mine. I've known this woman for like 25 years now, I think. Jesus, that's such a long time. I have trusted her with my resources, rubbing my two nickels together and making magic happen. She's an immensely intelligent, smart, dynamic leader. Um, Knows all the things. We're ready to talk about dollar bills, y'all. Christina, thank you for joining us on the Culture Fit podcast. We'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your stuff, like who you are, what you do, and all that jazz.
No, thank you for having me, Amber, Remington, Elise. I'm just incredibly excited to just share more information, what I've done in my life to just build wealth, go on vacation. I am a entrepreneur. I've been a financial advisor for nearly 22 years now. I'm actually about to be retiring from financial advising for a little bit, and taking a sabbatical and finding just different ways to build wealth. And I'm in the process of exploring that over the next year or 2 years or so. But currently, I'm just looking for ways to make money in different ways and continue to influence and educate others about wealth building.
Thank you, Christina. Listen, I feel like just to start off the conversation, it'd be good to just do like a level set, kind of basic understanding of, what is a 401k, right? For those of us who are listening who are in different areas or stages of their retirement investment journey. Can you break us down? Like, what is a 401k? What's the difference between that and a Roth IRA? What's an IRA? Like, can you kind of give us that little quick synopsis?
So all a 401k is a private company's retirement plan. So a 401k is just the tax code designating that company's retirement plan. If a person worked for a hospital or a public institution, that same kind of retirement account would be a 403b or a 457. And so all that is a corporate and privately owned retirement plan. IRA, in its simplest form, all it means is individual retirement account. So, an IRA you can set up as an individual person. You don't need to be employed by any particular company, and you can set up a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, and then a 401k or a 403b or a 457. And again, there's an alphabet soup of the entire tax code for different types of retirement plans. You just have to be employed by an institution.
Okay, so a lot of corporate baddies, retired corporate baddies like myself, even the burnt out corporate baddies, they're like, oh God, like I have this 401k, it's sitting here, it's looking juicy and delicious. What the hell? What is something that people should know? Like the first thing that people should know before they decide to like touch that 401k?
So, one of the things I always say to my friends, family, clients about their 401k is it's a way to build wealth. Oftentimes, clients and people have the opportunity to contribute to a 401k plan by participating and receiving a match from their employer. First and foremost, if you have a company trying to give you free money, participate in that 401k. If you put in 5% and the company puts in 5% or some, odd percentage, take advantage of that. However, you need to know that a 401k is strictly for retirement. So if you try to take it out for anything else other than retirement, you might be subject to taxes, penalties, and just other types of withdrawal issues when you take money out of a 401k or any form of company retirement plan.
I want to understand too a little bit, on the point of people are looking at their 401ks, they're like, oh gosh, like this is, do I retire now? Like what do I, or just rather like I don't have a job, And so I think the conversation of 401ks are becoming even more prevalent than even before. So like why do you think it's now more than ever that people are talking about this, And like do you think it's because we're losing faith in the certainty of our economic future or people are trying to get ahead of it? Like, what is your take on that?
So I think, when we talk about like retirement plan and everybody's first job, they hear about a 401k plan. It's honestly sometimes the first time anybody starts investing. So when you think about like you start working, people start going to the grind, people around you are like, contribute to your 401k. That's all people talk about. However, what they don't realize is outside of their 401k, there are other things that you can be doing to invest in other types of accounts like brokerage accounts or IRAs. I think why it's becoming more prevalent right now is because this is the main source that most people save their life savings into. A good deal of people's investments and savings are in their 401k plan. And especially if they're getting that free money. Look, if a company was giving me free money, I'm putting all my dollars in there. But I think people are looking at their 401ks more now because one, they're probably like looking at making life changes. They're seeing others grow their 401k accounts or their investment accounts, and they are looking at, this nest egg that can be used for retirement. But, if they have other goals, they're looking also to explore, what else they can use it for.
Okay, so I got some more questions for you. Like, you know, is contributing to and saving for our 401k like advice built on a bygone era, or is it like something that is still possible now? I think for a lot of millennials, we've been listening to boomers and even Gen X about, what we should do and like how we should save up, and that by the end of it, we'll be able to be okay. But when we're looking at how the economy is kind of playing out, like, you know, I'd love to hear just a bit of your advice about like how we as millennials could really think about 401ks in a maybe even in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, look, a 401k or a company retirement plan is, in my opinion, it's kind of old school. So a lot of people, especially people in our generation, people who are entrepreneurially driven, um, they're looking at their regular jobs. They're looking at starting businesses on the side. They're looking at different side hustles. And, the fact is that they can invest in other places outside of their 401k. They can look at alternatives like crypto, real estate, investing and building a business. I actually think, outside of a regular traditional 401k, one of the best ways to build wealth, or, several ways to build wealth, is to build and sell a business. If you have a business or an asset that you can build up and sell it to somebody who wants to buy it, I think that's a really great way to build wealth outside of investing inside of a 401k plan. Additionally, I think also another great way to build wealth is buy real estate. Imagine different places in the country where you can buy real estate, live in it for several, years. If you decide to move out, you have the opportunity to rent it. And then if you need to sell it, there's equity and liquidity that can potentially, be a way to build wealth. That equity or that growth on that property that has appreciated, roll into a business. Look at investing in other places. Look at maxing out, your regular 401k plan. And so I do think, again, there are alternative ways to invest outside of a 401k plan to again, build wealth long term.
I'm gonna do an off script question, like just thinking about like how a lot of us who have either quit a job or got fired from a job, like we're mid career right now. Do you know what I mean? So like, you know, if you could provide some like insight or encouragement or advice for folks who are in this weird liminal space right now where the job market is might be weird, or we're like, you know what, screw this, I'm going to start a business or whatever. Like, I think that there's a lot of pressure on folks who, especially millennials right now, to be able to execute on all fronts and on all cylinders in the most maximized way possible. How do we allow folks like us to have a realistic perspective about investing in our future while also maybe living in the reality of this like liminal, very tumultuous time?
So I think there's a statistic out there, and we can look it up, but I think some of the best opportunities to build wealth are during times of uncertainty. And for example, when I started my financial planning firm in 2008, 2009, I came from a corporate job, very stable, could have worked there for 20, 30 years if I wanted to. But in 2008, I had this incredible opportunity to partner with some of my mentors to help start and build a financial planning firm. If people remember, in 2008, that was actually the worst time to start a company. It was in the middle of the recession. People were like, nuts. What are you guys doing? Why are you starting a financial planning firm when the markets are down? And I will tell you, that was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because at the time we knew we were taking this risk. Um, at that time, I think I drew from my 401k. I went into debt because I believed in myself and I believed in the company and I believed what I was doing at the time. And 17, 18 years later, um, I am now retiring from financial planning by choice. I'm not getting fired. My clients actually want me to come back. So I'm always going to have a job if I decide to come back to the industry. But I think I want to just encourage people to, if you believe in your dreams, you believe in hard work, go do it. Now, I will say one of the things I learned is I never had a plan B. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to figure out how to make it. So I wasn't like, when I got hungry, I was like, all right, let me go figure it out. I need to do this thing. I think that mistake that a lot of people make is they spread themselves too thin. They have too many ideas. They put their energy in too many projects. And I think that also says a lot to where you're investing your dollars. If you're taking your dollars, there's a finite amount of dollars that you can invest into a new business, and you're trying to start 2 or 3 businesses, you got to pick one or 2 at least, and I think, if people are out there, and I also want to say I'm retiring because I'm burned out. And I think for a lot of us millennials, I've been working for 22 years. That doesn't include putting myself through college and having 3 or 4 jobs in college. So and then high school job, middle school job. Like, I've had a job for probably 30 years now. And and I think a lot of people are starting to evaluate this grind culture, that do they want to participate in this culture of being on the grind all of the time? I don't think so. And I think that's why people are looking at alternative ways to use their assets to, get out of the rat race at this point.
Very beautifully said. Also, welcome to the Burnt Out Baddies Club. What?
Look,
handing you a crown, right? Exactly. Okay. Shit. All right. So because Elise can be here, we have a question from her, and so hopefully I will not be clunky in this transition. So I'm going to add her question to the stage. Would love to hear your reaction to her question, if you feel comfortable providing a response. Also, we just want to let other people know while they're watching, like, this is not a financial advice column.
No,
right?
I'm not a financial planner anymore.
Right.
I'm
and
retired.
To us. So just listen to the shit and make your own choices based on you finding someone who can help you make an educated choice. Not Cristina, because she's not doing it. Okay.
If I come back, you can call me.
Yes. If she comes back, listen, I told you I'm first in line. So we're gonna add Elisa's question to the stage right now. Hopefully it's not super clunky when I do it. All right, y'all, here we go.
Hi, Christina and Remington and Amber. I am regretfully unable to make it to this amazing conversation today as I have to go and make some dollars. But I did want to contribute a little bit to the conversation, perhaps in a form of a question, perhaps in the form of sharing a little bit about my situation at the moment and getting y'all's weigh in on that. So I am currently experiencing somewhat of a transition from full-time work into more of a freelance, sort of trying to figure out the next phase of my career after working full-time for about 10 years. I am, full transparency, struggling a little bit financially at the moment to make ends meet, getting by on my savings and some freelance work, which is maybe only just covering my bills. So I was looking at some of the 401ks that I started early in my career. I have 20,000 in one account and 10,000 in another account. And when I look at that, I always thought of it as like untouchable money or something that's not actually yours until you retire or something like that. But now that I'm in this period of time where I kind of need some money, I've been weighing whether I should withdraw on the 401k, because also with my transition into freelance work, I don't necessarily foresee myself continuing to contribute to a 401k. So sure, yeah, that money could grow over time. But then when I also think about where I'm at the moment and where I'll be in, say, 30, 40 years, I feel like that money would be so meaningful to me right now, and maybe for the next year or two, it could really benefit me building the next phase of my life. Whereas I don't think that sum of money will be that meaningful to me when I am of, say, retirement age. So I'm wondering if I should withdraw on it early and just say goodbye to a 401k in general. Yeah, I'm curious y'all's weigh in on that. And that's a little bit of transparency around my financial situation and how I'm currently weighing up a decision around my 401k. Can't wait to hear the rest of y'all's conversation. Bye.
Wow, shout out to Elise. Thank you. That was like an important conversation and question, I think,
Yeah. So I think and this is what I would tell anybody coming to me with that same question. I think it depends on how long you have and need the runway for. So the math is the math. I'll give you a statistic. If somebody actually invests $10,000 today, that same $10,000 without it actually like being contributed to, without adding any more, I believe like 50 years later, 40 to 50 years later, you'd have over $2.1 million by just not touching those dollars. So I think one aspect of it is you should invest. We should be investing because over time, compounding growth makes incredible sense over time. You become millionaires just by letting the money sit and invest over time. However, depending on the situation and depending on what Elise and other people are using it for, it can be impactful to take those dollars, invest it into a business, take those dollars and as long as, in my opinion, as long as you're not frivolously spending it and you're taking it intentionally and purposefully to cover the things that need to be covered, then it could make sense to take a withdrawal. Now, I will say if there are alternative financing options. For example, if somebody can take a personal loan for a period of time, that could actually be a better option. And the reason being is that when you withdraw from a 401k plan, it could be subject to penalties. Those penalties could be up to 30 or 40% because you have to pay regular taxes on it, plus a 10% penalty if you're taking it when you're under 59 and a half years old. So even if, in this example, if you took out $20,000, 30% or 40% penalties, you would only get $12,000 to $15,000 potentially, and most of it would be eaten up by taxes.
And on that note, Christina, like, so you were kind of talking about, in some cases, taking out a personal loan would even be better than, taking out your 401k early or cashing it out. What are your thoughts on credit card debt? So would you advise somebody to rather, carry out a large sum of credit card debt or cash out their 401k? What do you think?
Yeah, it depends on the interest rate on the credit card debt. So there are credit cards out there that provide 0% financing for a period of time, or 9 to 10% financing or interest over time. Where I think credit card debt gets people into trouble is if they're high interest rate credit cards. Oftentimes, if it's like a points credit card or a travel credit card, people don't realize this, but those credit cards are 24 to 29% interest. And again, I think it depends on the need and what type of runway somebody needs. So it's always going to be dependent on that situation. Like if it's credit card debt for, say, 2 to 3 months, that's probably a better strategy than withdrawing from a 401k. But if that same credit card is 29% and you are carrying that balance for 12 months and you've got money to pay it off with a 401k, it might be a toss up. It just really depends on the situation.
Super helpful. Okay, like we ran out of our standard questions, but I would just love to know, is there any other things that you think millennials, mid-career executives and managers should know just about how they're thinking about their future? Again, we here talk about all of these things, but within the context of these weird, volatile, interesting times that we live in. As well as a BIPOC queer, women-centered lens. I want to keep it really freaking 100 here. You know?
Yeah.
So anything that speaking to that audience, that you would want folks to think about or consider or remember or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for asking that question. My career has been in a predominantly white cisgendered male industry, and there are very little women in my industry. Additionally, brown queer women in my industry, and part of the reason I decided to take a step back and take a sabbatical is to reevaluate who I was as a person and what my goals were, instead of what society brings and tells us what's successful. So oftentimes society says, buy a house, have a family, have a nice car. And that's kind of your normal success story, if you would. As a queer person and brown female queer person, I'm divorced from my ex-wife. I'm engaged to my current fiance. We have a blended family. We've been long distance. And I think oftentimes I had to, sit and evaluate, what does success mean to me? What do I want in life? And I think I say that to also say that I think everybody needs a break. I think people need to take a sabbatical. I think they need that time and space to evaluate what's important to them. And corporate, like I said, corporate. Actually, I was telling colleagues this. Corporate doesn't allow for that. It's not like in education where professors are required to take sabbaticals or they're required to go off and explore and do research. In a corporate environment, you are asked to grind 40 to 60 to 80 hours a week for 20 and 30 years. And I don't think that's actually healthy for anybody.
Well, I mean, I feel really just educated, empowered. I feel like, if you don't, for a quick like summary cap up, like if you aren't already contributing to your 401k, Christina, if that's something that, you know, people are in their professional lives and they're like, oh shoot, have I missed my opportunity? I've been working for, 3, 4, 5 years even. Like, is it ever too late to start contributing? And, when is it a lost cause? When should there be other investment opportunities or options that you should look into?
Yeah. So if you still work for a corporation and that company gives you a match, the easiest advice to take is to at least contribute up to that match. Now, going back to Elise's question, is she and other business owners are freelancers or they might own businesses. And one of the things that people don't realize is as a freelancer or a business owner, you can actually set up a business 401k for yourself or a business retirement plan for yourself. So we don't want to, just because somebody's freelancing or they're a solo business owner, there's a plethora of opportunities to still invest. So it's never too late to start investing. Now, again, I will say this, and I want to take this back, is that if you are investing today and you want to retire tomorrow, it might be a little too late.
Dang.
But you might have to call Social Security and live on security. But look, but I think people should always be investing, whether it's in a traditional individual retirement account, a Roth IRA, a 401k, they should be investing. Or if they're investing to build a business, investing in real estate, invest into something that has growth potential.
Hell yes to that. Okay, I feel like you've had so many mic drop moments, so we're gonna just be like, hell yeah. I do want to say this, like, it is, I just know the dopest people, and so I just want to extend gratitude your way for saying yes and let you know that I am cheering for you as you go on your own journey of self-discovery and figuring out like what is my purpose? What am I called to do? What is my next thing in life? I know you're going to be successful because you're my friend. You know what I mean? I don't know losers. So there's that. But I do want to encourage our audience to cheer for you. Do you want to connect with anybody or not connect with anybody as you go on this journey? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So everyone can connect and follow my adventures. It's either lifestyle, travel, money. Now that I'm not tied to a corporation, I think I can be a little bit less filtered. I've had to be pretty filtered over the last 20 plus years. So I don't know what's going to come out of me, but they can follow me on Instagram at Christina23B. They can follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
You still got Facebook?
Look, Facebook, don't hate on me. I got to figure out how to get on TikTok too.
No, let me take you through a TikTok tutorial, bro. Like, we gotta get you off of
Well,
Gotta get
I haven't been allowed on TikTok because of just my industry. They actually don't let us post on TikTok. So
Dang, hidden secrets. Didn't know that.
yeah.
Thank you, Christina. This was so great. I really appreciate you, spend some knowledge on us and getting us, and our money right and just empowering us to make the right steps for our financial future. So thank you, honestly.
So we're back, and my homegirl is amazing. I don't know anyone who sucks. You know what I mean? All my friends are dope. I will claim that. I wanna say that that conversation was just very affirming, enlightening. I loved it. I'd love to know though, at least because you dropped the question in to Christina, what are your what are your thoughts now? Because I'd love some follow-up, like, what are you gonna choose to do? If you don't wanna divulge that, that's okay too.
Well, yeah, first of all, I will say thank you so much, Christina, and thank you too as well for having such a awesome conversation. I definitely learned and picked away some things that I'll take with me. One thing that stood out that she mentioned that like I feel like really resonates with me and I think everyone should take home and put in their back pocket as well is that there are multiple ways to invest and build wealth and 401k isn't the only way. There are ways outside of having a corporate job where you can invest in your today and your future at the same time. Like, for example, starting a business or, yeah, figuring out how to invest in real estate, which in a way that is like investing in a business as well. But yeah, finding alternative creative ways to feed yourself and your future at the same time. Like, I definitely, that's an idea that I feel inspired by. And I think a lot of people should too. Like Remington was saying earlier, like especially the people who are becoming disenchanted with the whole system of it all, there are ways to be like creative and to build on something and yeah, create something and build wealth for yourself and not just subscribe to the system that has and time again failed us. And another thing that she said that I think everyone should keep in their front pocket or as like close to their heart is that a it at times of uncertainty are actually the times where there is opportunity to, like, maybe I don't know if I would say take a risk, but, to yeah, maybe take a mini risk and build wealth. So, I definitely took a lot of actually optimistic inspiration from that episode. I still am on the fence on withdrawing my 401k. I think what I will do, though, is I'm gonna wait until the end of towards the end of Q3 slash start of Q4, look at how much money or income from employment I've made through the year. If it's still on the low end, I might withdraw from my 401k because then I will have more of an idea on what my, taxable income will be. So outside of the penalty, like I'll have more of an idea on what that money end up will looking like. But like Christina said, like, yeah, 20k might become 12k, let's say, but 12k is still kind of a lot of money. Like you can really make that you could really create a little garden with that and make it grow. So that's definitely something that's still in the back of my head. But yeah.
Listen, you got like an ace in your pocket, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Remington, sorry, I like jumped in. Go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't gonna say anything other than I completely hear you, Elise, and I agree with all the points that you took away from the conversation with Christina. And I think for me, one of the things that I also took away was the fact that, like, you know what? Like, it's not too late. You know what I mean? If you're listening and you're like, I can't relate to this at all because I have not started a 401k or that was just something that I was not getting ahead of soon enough. It's like, I think the most important thing to stress, personally speaking, and again, not financial advice, but I think that it's better to start whenever you can versus just not at all. And whatever money you're able to save or invest in your future self is gonna be you're gonna be thinking yourself no matter what. And like, sure, it could have been a million versus 500,000 or two like 500,000 versus 250,000 or whatever. But like it's better than it being zero, like your future self would be like, I'm so glad that even if I started at age 40, and it wasn't, I couldn't optimize everything that I gave myself or could have given myself. At least I gave myself something. And that's better than nothing. So that's my thought on it.
Yes to that. I mean, I would say also like really expanding the way in which you think about investing that we all have kind of touched upon. Like, for example, like Cash App, you can buy shares of shares. You can buy pieces of shares on Cash App, right? Like, you can buy pieces of crypto on a lot of these platforms that you use to send your homies money for brunch. You might as well put $50 on, I don't know, something that you are using all the time And then that can become, $150 in a couple months. And you're like, shit, now I could treat all the homies to brunch. Like the way in that we think about it, like capitalism for now isn't going anywhere. Right. And so, if you have this like gross indignation about participating in the grind of the wheel, like you're missing out on opportunities that could actually help you. People are still having babies. I don't know why. So diapers are a thing that you can invest in. You know what I mean? People are still buying cars for now. You know what I mean? So like, what car do you drive, sis or king or thing, right? Like invest in that, right? I know when my kids were playing Roblox, like hardcore. I was like, what company owns Roblox? They sold to Microsoft. At the time, I bought my kids shares in Microsoft. Like, and now those shares look kind of good. So like really thinking about like what are the things that I'm using in my everyday life? It might not be your 401k, right? But what are the things that I'm using in my everyday life that I could put, money in? What companies are like kind of tanking right now, but they're going to come back up because they are legacy companies, right? There are some companies that are never going to go away. They might have a downswing. Grab up a couple shares, grab up pieces of shares. Everyone can invest. And until this thing crumbles, there is space for everyone. Do not get intimidated by I don't have $1,000 to put down on Apple, or, oh, I don't have, $75,000 to buy a Bitcoin. Yeah, bitch, who does? But you can get a small piece that can help expand possibilities and for you and your family, or for you and your business for later. So that's something that I would say.
Amen to that. Amen.
Get off my soapbox.
An important soapbox.
And
So
don't be like staring at your investments every day. You know what I mean? Everybody's not like you're not a like everyone's not like a trader on the stock market. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like once you do some shit, like let it breathe. Like don't be neurotic because a watch pot never boils. And that is the same with stocks. I'm a firm believer in that. Okay, anyway,
Period.
sorry to interrupt.
I was just gonna go to the next thing, girl. Yes. Well, that was good. We need that. We need that closure for sure.
Yeah, for real,
What
for real.
what are we talking about? Are we
Okay,
talking
well, I guess our closing thought here is just we'd love to know, just don't tell all your financial business in the comment section, but what are your thoughts about these times in the 401k, conversation? Again, I know I'm seeing a lot of it on TikTok. These guys are seeing it, so we just love to know what are your thoughts about how creatively using 401k, not financial advice. Do not put your dollar signs in the comment section.
Why not?
I
Wealth
feel like I
transparency.
just feel like some people be putting themselves out there on blast and then, you know what I mean? Just
That's wealth transparency.
I guess we just but do I don't know.
I will say if you have any personal stories you think that not to use it as financial advice for others, but that you think helped you that you'd like to share, like I'd love to see it. I love
Or
hearing people's stories.
yeah, or stories of investing in yourself and successful like small businesses or solopreneurship ventures that you started on your own. I definitely like yeah, like outside the stock market and 401k, which are, like kind of traditional ways that people think about investment. There are more creative ways to do so now that yeah, Christina also mentioned like now is actually a good time to think about those, especially for people like us who kind of want to be doing our own things, be the leaders of our own lives. So, yeah, tell us about some interesting ways that you're investing in yourself.
Hell yeah. Remington, where can the people find you?
You can find me at The New Ladder on all platforms. Yes, at The New Ladder.
And you can find me and Amber at I love you bitch, bitch bitxx. I love you bitxx on Instagram, TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not really IG girlies. We're not really IG baddies, but we definitely
We post on there every now and then, a little bit of fun, a little bit of joy for your feed. So find us there and join our party.
Okay, well, come back next time. We don't know what we're going to be talking about, but we're going to talk about something dope. All right. We will be back to have an amazing conversation because we're amazing people. So are you. Please subscribe, hit the notifications button so that you know when it's popping, and share this if you found this to be helpful with any of the homies who are really thinking through financial choices with the resources that are available to them.
Thank you again to Cristina for joining our conversation. We loved having you, loved hearing from you, and we'll also put her socials up as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Cristina. Shout out to you.
Woo.
Shout out. All right. Peace.
Peace.